Hey people, it's Ed with Free Circle. Hope you're having a good evening. You know, with all the hatreds and the disputes in the world, I kind of feel that it's most important to recognize right now the South China Sea. And why that is because of there are so many territorial disputes, and these disputes go back so long. I mean, the 9 dash line, the 11 dash line, these are shipping lanes. These are major shipping lanes, and a lot of territorial water disputes, per se. You've got Taiwan, you got China, you got the Philippines, you got Brunei, you got Indonesia, you got Malaysia, and Hong Kong, Taiwan, these disputes. There's a lot of disputes in this area. The Spratly Islands, they're the Parcel Islands. There's a lot of these artificial islands popping up in the South China Sea, and they're militarizing the heck out of that area. These hatreds run deep in that area, and they are deeper than most people realize. I've been concerned for quite some time about the way we've been presenting ourselves in the South China Sea region and presenting ourselves so close to disputes. I understand that we should have free shipping lanes. That is a must. And I understand that not everybody always gets their way on these matters. But we got to realize we're over in their territory. And I understand we're trying to keep the peace in the world. But these old hatreds have been forgotten by a lot of the modern politicians, and they don't understand you can't just use muscle all the time. Sometimes you have to use muscle, and by golly, I would hate to have to come up against the United States military. That's just something that's not a desirable task, and if it is for somebody, boy, we're dealing with some lunatics here. So the South China Sea has been heating up recently, and we have been losing our foothold around the world. And I believe that we're going to end up finding these old hatreds flare up beyond control here real soon. And my concern is, what is that going to do to the world shipping? Look at the over there in Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. There's a lot of issues that are being overlooked by a lot of people when they're touting war. And I think trade war is a good thing, but also trade wars almost always end up in hot wars, and conflict is not something you want out of this area, because I don't know, there's those hatreds of the past, but then during World War II there was more hatreds compiled on top of that. And some of the negotiations that happened after World War II were pretty undesirable to a lot of the world. And here we are, we're dealing with all of these old disputes. I mean, you've got to think the area, it's said to be oil and natural gas rich, and that means there's economic interest in the area. And anytime there's vital economic interest, especially when you're talking about natural resources, natural energy resources, you're bound to get some conflict. So this South China Sea incident, we've been pushing and pushing and pushing for a long time. And you know, you've got like the Philippines, they want us out. Japan wants us out. Okinawa, is it Okinawa, the biggest base area over there? Oh heck, it eludes my mind right at this time. Anyway, you've got a lot of military installations over in Japan, and it's vital to the interest in the United States eyes because of security, securing those shipping lanes that are that 9-11- line that was set up long time ago. See, and you've got to remember Vietnam and all of these areas in this, they have these area disputes, fishing disputes, just territorial disputes are bad in that area, and they're boiling over. You've got China, they're starting to build a navy that is one to bolster. You know, they're proud of it, and they are starting to build this aircraft capable navy now, and submarine type navy where they can control that shipping lane area a little more and a lot quicker than we can, because of, you know, their homeland is right there. And if anybody knows the history of World War II, when it came to pinning down the Pacific, this was not a easy area to pin down and take control of. A lot of men and women died during that time. See, the 9- line was actually originally called the 11- line. It was back in the 1940s when that was established, mid to late 40s. So that's just the outline of the area that is in dispute, and the Spratly Islands and the Senkaku and Denanyu. I can't say those names. Anyway, these islands, some of them are nothing more than a rock, and they fight over them continually. And this disputed area is vital because of the supposed natural gas and oil supplies under that. So we're talking war here pretty soon. Look at all of the militarized buildup in that area. China has put extensive work into building these islands up, and they fortified them. They're fortified with anti-aircraft. They've got airfield capability, long-range airfield bomber capability. And that's kind of alarming that we're seeing this type of buildup. And we're seeing another thing to be concerned with is this BRICS nation thing, where you've got all of these nations coming together and starting their own little banking system. So the petrodollar is really starting to be challenged in the world. And we've got a lot to be concerned with. And a lot of people are focused on the Middle East right now. And that's fine to be concerned with over there. But we've got to remember also, you know, when they wanted to go into Afghanistan, I remember late Senator Robert Byrd going into a long spill about the long tribal hatreds in that region, and it's historical. You cannot hold that region. That's how Russia kind of got ran down, you know, and it put an end to the Soviet Union. So there's a lot of things going on right now that are very alarming and concerning, and we better be thinking about all of these trade negotiations. And look at the influx coming up through Mexico from Central and South America right now. What do you think that might be doing to the American economy? And what is really going to be the response when they hit that American border? So we've got disputes all over the place, but excuse me, the number one area that I really have been watching for several years is that South China Sea. And now you're seeing battleships and bombers, you know, making this show of force in the area. And China has been saying for quite some time, hey, back off. This is our homeland. This is right off of our shores. So America has been a little intrusive over in there. And I have always kind of been against policing the world. I understand we don't want the old hatreds and the Hitler mentality coming out, but I don't think we're helping much by doing these show of force tactics. So I don't know. We've got a lot of hot zones in the world, but the one in particular that concerns me the most is those trade wars. Because those trade wars, they always turn hot. Because there's two big-headed dogs and they want a piece of the meat that's laid out on the floor, and they're going to scrap till one of them gets it. That's what we're boiling down to. And if people are not aware of it, they might be caught in a very bad situation. So there was a lot of people that went hungry when World War II started going down, because people weren't looking at the events occurring around the world. And granted, they did not have the social media and the speed of information that we do now with the modern technologies. And that's why it's very alarming to me. Why are people so unaware of what is actually happening? It's blowing me away. So I hope the best for everybody. I hope your plan includes being prepared with food and water, just in case something happens. The world is very full of hatred, violence, and tense situations. So you should be having the basic necessities on hand with you, and possibly a little bit of medical supplies. You know, there's a lot to think about right now. And we've got the midterms happening, and there's the alleged interruption with the elections again. So that's another concern. And how hot will that get? You know, the rift in America, we are torn right now, and we need to start talking and fixing these hatreds. There's no sense in all of it. So the quicker that people start realizing violence will not fix the issues, even though, yes, people are mad, and I understand the hatreds, the violence, but there's ways to get around it. Start talking to people. Start understanding their concerns. And start addressing what concerns you. That's vital in this world. The more we can communicate with each other about our concerns, the better for everybody, because once we're out in the open with our concerns, we can start putting Band-Aids and ointments on those wounds to start healing. So not only are we in distress here on our homeland, but around the world, tensions are rising. Old hatreds are flaring up. And we've got a lot of people in need. In Venezuela, it's really bad right now. And just the thought of all of that just drives me crazy. We've got people on the streets here going hungry. Here in America, I don't believe the mixed up, confused guidance that we are dealing with right now. And I don't mean Trump, for all you Trumpsters, you know. I don't do the partisan politics. I don't like most of them, because a lot of them flip and they flop on what they say. I would like to see individuals in representing us that do as they say and say as they mean. We're losing that. And sometimes people just need the hard facts. They need to be told, hey, buckle up. We're going to be really tight for quite some time. You know, during the Roosevelt period, a lot of people, get on him about that, but that guy kind of had a big job to do. So him and Winston Churchill, we need some leaders like that. It's time to get serious in the world. You've got to be able to communicate, and you've got to be able to listen. That's the key. A lot of people don't like to listen. So watch that South China Sea conflict. It's growing, and it's getting pretty restless over there. The Crimea, Russia has a lot of intent behind their reasonings and rhymes. They want their power back in the world. They feel like we kind of slapped them. And when Gorbachev and Reagan did what they did, it changed the world. And during that time, I was thinking, wow, this is so beautiful. And this is what the world really needs. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. I'll never forget that, man. East and West, they came together. And if you were alive and you remember all of the people tearing that wall down, chunks of it coming down before, it was exciting. It was a vibrant will of the people. The tear these borders down, these divisions. And we kind of need that Ronald Reagan, Gorbachev mentality again. We need to bring a collective thought pattern. Yeah, we're not going to fix everything, but let's look at the one thing that we both don't want. That's destruction for our nations. And I'm sure China and all of the other ones are right in with us on that. I would hope. I mean, the world has seen a lot of hatred. And history shows, remember Gandhi, the split that happened when Gandhi died. That's just amazing that people let hatreds divide them. There's always those people that try to mend the wounds through dialogue, talking to people, bringing people together, getting them to understand, let's look at the other side and let's not interrupt what they say. Let's figure out where they are actually coming from. And once you get past the angers and the dialogue starts to flow, that's where you can find beneficial points of interest that we can connect on, sew those together, and start weaving the fabric back together. This earth is a big place, and there is massive amounts of resources, and how we allocate the lands on this planet really matter. And the resources of this planet, they really matter. They're not mine. They're not yours. They're ours. And a lot of companies put a logo on what is ours. And maybe we ought to rethink some of those things. Because, yes, we all need those, but when we get monopolies running over the people's interest, that's when we have to step back and say, well, do we really have good interest for our countries? I don't know. That South China Sea area is really concerning right now. Keep your eye on the conflict. There's a lot happening in the world, and a lot of people trying to cover things up in the world. Keep your eyes open, your ears open, and help somebody today. In any way you can, try to help somebody and make somebody else's day brighter. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you tomorrow. My name is Ed, Free Circle. I'm out of here.